Hello, good evening and welcome to my roundtable assessment on cerebral palsy. This afternoon I will be introducing you to the world of cerebral palsy, and I will do so by grouping my information under three headings: heart, hand and mind. But be warned, there will be a quiz at the end, so you should probably pay attention. Now tonight this morning these are the things that I will be talking about. But anyway, let's jump right into it with mind. Now, as you may know, cerebral palsy affects the brain. But before I tell you how, I should define the brain. The brain. Control center of the body, controlling your blood pressure, body temperature, heart rate, and don't forget your breathing. It also handles all your physical movements when walking, talking, standing, or sitting. It even lets you think, dream, reason, experience emotions, and feel pain. This is a diagram that shows the brain. Cerebral palsy commonly gets us right about there, between the cerebellum and the cerebral cortex. Now, let's move on to the history of cerebral palsy in the USA. I know what you're thinking. Usually history isn't so interesting, but I disagree. Cerebral palsy's history has a few major events in the US that I'm about to share with you. Around in the 1800s, Dr. William John Little, who had cerebral palsy himself, pioneered the study by using his childhood disability as an inspiration. Then, at different times, the US government passed crucial legislation to modernize care and further the rights of individuals with disabilities. Then, in 1963, President Kennedy signed the Community Health Act, which promoted community-based care as an alternative to institutionalization. Then, on July 26, 1990, President George H.W. Bush passed the Disabilities Act, prohibiting employers from discriminating against people with a disability. Oh, God. When I was first diagnosed with cerebral palsy, I was lucky enough to get help from one of South Australia's leading children's charities, Novita. It is a world leader in research and providing services to children with physical disabilities or brain injuries. Novita currently provides therapy, equipment, and family support to more than 2,000 children. Novita's services help me by providing therapy on how to use my hand. They provide equipment such as wheelchairs, walking frames, and communication devices like my laptop. Now to talk about a world first, Cerebral Palsy Day. World Cerebral Palsy Day on September the 4th is a world first. The theme for the day is Change My World in 1 minute. A website will be launched for people with cerebral palsy to express what they need to make life more independent and rewarding. People can post ideas that must only take 1 minute to read. The best idea will be voted in. Scientists and inventors will make and create the best products. These products will be launched by next Cerebral Palsy Day on September the 3rd, 2013. Now to talk about the disability itself. Cerebral palsy is a disability that has 5 types. Spastic. This is the most common type of cerebral palsy. Spasticity means stiffness or tightness of muscles, which is obvious when the person tries to move. Athetoid. Athetosis means uncontrolled movements, which often lead to erratic movements. Ataxic. Ataxic. This is the least common type of cerebral palsy. Ataxia means a lack of balance and coordination. It often presents as unsteady, shaky movements called tremors. And tremor cerebral palsy, which causes uncontrollable shaking and interfering with coordination. And mixed cerebral palsy, as you can probably guess, is a mixture of 2 or 3 of the different cerebral palsy types. Now then, to answer this question, how is cerebral palsy caused? Cerebral palsy results from damage to certain parts of the developing brain. This damage can occur early in pregnancy, when the brain is just starting to form, during the birth process as the child passes through the birth canal, or after birth in the first few years of life. In many cases, the exact cause of damage to the brain is never known. Now for a Did You Know page. Did you know that cerebral palsy is diagnosed more often in boys than in girls? 60% of those with cerebral palsy have normal or above average intelligence. The number of children diagnosed with cerebral palsy is increasing worldwide, and 1/3 of children with cerebral palsy cannot walk, dress, or feed themselves. About 50% of cerebral palsy children are born prematurely. Now for some of the good impacts on my life. Some are that it is not much different to live with it in my case, but with others it can cripple them forever. I also have the benefit of fast reflexes and the ability to grip things quite quickly. So I wouldn't say that it's so bad. I can also type really well and fast. The problems I have with cerebral palsy are that handwriting has been difficult for me. The pain in my hand is sometimes excruciating. Sometimes it just doesn't bother me though. Another problem is that my hand tightens randomly, which, as I may have said, impacts my writing. But now that I think about it, not many things have been caused by CP. Now then, for the final section, hand. In this segment, I will include a video of how my hand is. Anyway, let's move on to what cerebral palsy has done to me. Cerebral palsy has interrupted the messages from my brain to my hand. My hand is no different from mine to yours. Well, maybe it is a bit different, but that's not the point. Maybe sometimes my hand just doesn't do what I tell it to, but yet again, it has all the normal muscles, they just function in a different way. Some people say that my hand is weird and must be heavily affected by cerebral palsy. But my hand is actually not as affected as much as it could be, and I'm glad that it's not. I'm quite lucky to be able to move freely and even stand. Some people can't even move due to cerebral palsy. And other people with cerebral palsy have, as I may have said, normal or above average intelligence. Anyway, moving on. The base of cerebral palsy is in my brain. As I showed earlier, it occurs... Never mind. The message is transferred... The base of cerebral palsy is in my brain. As I showed earlier, it occurs between the cerebellum and the cerebral cortex. The message is transferred to my hand of being interrupted by cerebral palsy. This is a video of my hand moving while I'm trying to ignore it. This shaking is called focal dystonia. Oh God. Yeah. As a person with cerebral palsy, the habits of mind that a person with cerebral palsy like me could or would use are persistence, as maybe they would have to struggle around to get out of bed. Gathering data through all senses. Maybe some people with cerebral palsy can't touch things because the movement of their limbs are limited. Striving for accuracy, because people with cerebral palsy have to try really hard to get their movements precise. Another habit of mind could be thinking flexibly. They might have to solve everyday problems in a different way. A final habit of mind could be finding humour, because I know that having a laugh can help. Oh God. At the beginning you may have seen quiz in the contents. Well, here we are, and it's time for you to answer the questions. Okay. Now then, on to question 1. In what part of the brain does cerebral palsy occur? Is it A, between the cerebral cortex and the cerebellum, B, only the cerebellum, or C, the motor cortex? Anyone got the answer? Fergus. Correct. Now then, on to the second and final question. What specific thing can people without cerebral palsy do that people with cerebral palsy can't? A, write, B, run, or C, nothing? Anyone got the answer? Sophie?
B.
Nope. Mitchell?
Is it nothing?
Correct. There's nothing that a person with cerebral palsy and a person without cerebral palsy can't do. Thank you for listening to my roundtable assessment, and I hope you enjoyed it.